Hello and welcome to yet another exciting episode of Economic Forum. My name is Tawanda Gudlanga and I'm out of the studio. It is because we went on a tour of the ZISCO steel plant. You will recall that we hosted the board chair of ZISCO Steel, Engineer Martin Manoa, who gave us a case point on what is happening at the giant ZISCO Steel. But we thought we should put our finger on the pulse and see exactly what is happening. And this tour rode on the back of an interministerial task force tour that was led by the chair of that committee, that's Dr. Sekai Nzenza. But to just give us a bit more, we have the group CEO of ZISCO Steel, that's Dr. Karonga. Now, just in a nutshell, what was the purpose of this interministerial task force tour?
The issue is that the Interministerial Committee of Ministers dealing with the revival of ZISCO come out here to ZISCO to inform themselves about ZISCO, to be on the ground, to meet staff, to do a tour of the operations or the company. And they also went out to BIMCO. There's a mine there called a limestone mine. And then they also went out to some of parts of the ZISCO operation. They said the idea was to inform themselves, and yes, it was definitely a welcome visit from our perspective as management, the encouragement that we get from that.
The thrust that we have is to ensure that we revive the ZISCO subsidiaries. I think you are quite aware the subsidiaries that we have are quite a low-hanging fruit. We have the ZISCO coke ovens and ZimChem operation. This is a very, very lucrative chemical industry subsidiary of ZISCO, where we are shareholders. We also would like to ensure that we put back the production of lime from ZISCO lime kilns, and also make sure that we resuscitate the mills sections with our 4 rolling mills, as well as the bar rod mill, the billet and other sections for our manufacturing processes. We have done an assessment in the short term of the ZISCO revival roadmap, which will begin by looking at how we can put back BIMCO into its mining operations. The rest of which can be resuscitated when we have scouted for the right investment partner. We are mainly appealing for investors to be ready, both local, international, and regional investors. It is our wish that as many Zimbabweans as possible can be looking forward to be investing into the ZISCO Steel project.
So we get to hear more from the Minister of Provincial Affairs representing Midlands, who spoke more about the need for further due diligence when it comes to conducting business and closing thereof at ZISCO Steel.
The board and indeed the management conduct a proper due diligence so that we avoid further false starts. There are people that are interested in the assets that we have as a country. There are people that are interested in the opportunities that are inherent within ZISCO, and they will come up with all sorts of glorious offers, but when it comes to implementation, we always find them wanting. So I do believe that proper due diligence needs to be taken, but at the same time, taking cognizant of the 5-year National Development Strategy, that these things need to get started. And as Minister of State, I believe that my performance is measured by how well we assist in reviving companies that are dormant, in establishing new industries, and in growing the provincial GDP as well as the national GDP. My office remains committed and available to assist you in whatever way we can to achieve your objective.
Ladies and gentlemen, the revival of ZISCO is absolutely key to the revival of the steel industry. The significance of resuscitating ZISCO will bring benefits to downstream industries. It would also assist us in supporting and providing the raw materials that are needed in agriculture, construction, mining, and the transport industry. The figure that we are spending on imports is astronomical. It doesn't paint a good picture about us as a country, given how much iron ore we have in this country. We are importing steel from Turkey, from everywhere, you name it, Malaysia, Singapore, it's all happening. It's coming into Zimbabwe. And the figure I have here says we are spending 1.1 billion US dollars, and that is foreign currency that's leaving this country. And ladies and gentlemen, we can't afford to do that anymore. I would therefore call upon ZISCO management to come up with specific measures to curtail any further losses of assets, as well as curtail any further debt accumulation. And we would like to fully understand, Chair, how much debt this company has. The government would like to see a well-documented ZISCO asset register and its liabilities. This is key priority. We shall be supporting ZISCO's endeavor to put in place an asset management system in order to enable the company to move more towards a proactive, condition-based approach to production maintenance, as well as optimizing asset reliability and driving the business results. We are very keen to see how management and the board will begin to address or focus on the low-hanging fruit.
After the break, we continue to give you highlights of what was happening on tour here at ZISCO Steel. Join us then. Welcome back. This is Economic Forum, and we are in Kwekwe, where we are on tour of the giant ZISCO Steel. Now, Zimbabwe stands to lose $1.1 billion due to importation of steel products. That money should have been going into ZISCO Steel.
The revival of ZISCO Steel is of paramount importance as economic development involves the utilization of steel. From the reports which have been presented by the chairman and the CEO and the minister, between 2016 to 2018, the domestic market consumed steel products worth more than 1.1 billion. I want to thank the minister for the initiative. I want to thank the board. I also want to thank the management for coming up with such a strategic decision for us to be here today. From the analysis that was provided by the minister, Dr. Nzenza, there is now need for us to focus on the revival of the steel industry, which is key in order to do import substitution and also export development. I want to thank the minister also for the rich industrial remarks to reawaken the sleeping giant. As we move towards Vision 2030, I have no doubt that ZISCO Steel will contribute to the devolution and development of the Midlands province and obviously contribute to the national GDP.
Engineer Manoa, the interministerial task has come, has seen, but the big question is, will it conquer?
Yes, this was a show of support and commitment from central government, which we appreciate. So the ministerial task force encouraged us as the board and management of ZISCO to look at our systems, to do our strategic plans and come up with a term sheet or the terms of reference, as well as the request for proposals for the investors roundtable. So as ZISCO, we are on it. We are going to come up with that as a deliverable. We are also going to engage, as we speak, the feasibility, what we call the bankable feasibility study for the pathways of the recovery, and then they also craft out the long-term strategy and roadmap for the revival of ZISCO Steel.
But in terms of timelines, how soon are we going to see this giant at least showing some flicker of life?
Yes, that is the condition precedent to that. The first condition is the identification of the investors. And then the second condition is our efforts that we are doing, the in-house effort and the support we are getting to government. This already, we have ZimChem operating at some percentage. We have Lancashire Steel operating at below capacity. So we are going to look at these low-hanging fruits and make sure that very soon, maybe within the 8 months to 24 months, you have BIMCO, which is our major brand, online. We hope to then, by then, to have identified the investor, to have put the strategies and got the necessary approvals from government, which is the major shareholder of 89%. We are also going to engage the diaspora. We are going to engage the research community. We are going to research our employees, management, and engage those people to come up with a comprehensive startup plan.
Join us after the break as we give you the third and final segment, as we get to hear what really transpired during the tour and the way forward. Join us then. Welcome back to the third and final segment of Economic Forum, where we are in Kwekwe touring the giant ZISCO Steel. It has been identified as the anchor of Zimbabwean economy, and if at all Zimbabwe is to attain a middle income status, ZISCO Steel becomes the key that unlocks that value. One of the reasons that have been raised has been lack of political will and the need for due diligence. And after the tour, it seems it was all smiles from the parties involved.
This is a very viable industry which has been ignored and let down for many, many years, but has serious potential in terms of uplifting the economic viability of the province and the country indeed. As a country, you cannot achieve economic success without a viable steel industry. Here in the Midlands province, and particularly at ZISCO, we have everything that we need. We have iron ore at mining claims. We have BIMCO, which provides the lime that is needed. All those ingredients are here. We have the labor, the expertise, we have the power coming from ZESA. We have the railroad network that is needed in order to complement the entire process. So as a province, this is one of the pillars that we are looking at in terms of reviving and resuscitating as we do our the national development strategy for the first 5 years coming up.
You've toured, you've seen, and ICT becomes a very important sector when we talk about Industry 4.0. And what's more important, the revival of ZISCO Steel. ICT has become an integral role. Your sentiments?
We've had a familiarization tour of the steelworks, a familiarization tour of the coke oven batteries, ZimChem refiners as well, to see how best we can revive the entire industry. So basically, the visit also involves how we can do engineering revision, how best we can improve on our efficiencies by utilizing ICTs in order to increase on productivity, how best we can utilize ICTs in order to manage the entire value chain, how to use ICTs in terms of production, how to cut down on costs, and also to improve on efficiency, and also to ensure that there is transparency by utilizing information communication technology. We went through various stages of the steel industry production, which include the cinder plant, the state of the cinder plant, how best it can be revived, whether we need it in the new steel industry, which probably will craft working with the board and management. From the cinder plant, we also toured the coke oven batteries, and probably there will be a revival of certainly one recovery coke oven battery, which would then supply the byproducts to Zimchem refiners. So it's also about the value chain of the entire steelworks. A part of the entire setup includes taking into consideration some of the byproducts coming from Wange, from other organizations like HCGC, HCCL, Jinan, South Mining, into the value chain, so that we can focus on the revival of Zimchem refiners. We also went through the steel plant, and we realized that part of the infrastructure is still intact. Of course, part of the infrastructure is very old, so it's now an issue of coming up with a short-term, medium-term, and long-term business plan, which will then report back to Cabinet with regards to how best we can re-engineer the entire steel industry so that we can produce. Obviously, the Vision 2030 is about the economy. It's about production. And there's no other way we can revive this economy. There's no other way we can walk towards Vision 2030 without a viable steel industry. A viable steel industry is very necessary for the development of the country.
It was more of an eye-opening experience in terms of seeing the potential of waking up this sleeping giant.
A sleeping giant, it has been described, but obviously it needs resuscitation, and the board has promised that they're really putting their hands on deck. But let's quickly look at the quick wins and the stepping stones moving forward.
The quick wins is Zimchem. When we look at Zimchem, we're now looking at the downstream industries. And the overall picture of what ZISCO steel is or can do, we're looking at the raw materials that feeds into agriculture, mining, transport, and construction. So we are looking at the rolling mills. Those are like quick wins. And when you combine what I'm calling the low-hanging fruits, we can begin to generate income. For example, we already have some slag right up there, which we saw. And that slag is used to make cement. Admittedly, there has not been good, solid management of those assets. But what's exciting now is that we do have a board. And the board's role is to maintain oversight over management. While there is separation of powers between the board management, ultimately the board need to make sure that we are moving in the right direction. ZISCO Steel was the anchor of the Zimbabwean steel industry. We are going to resuscitate ZISCO Steel. And key strength in doing so is the partnership that has been formed with the direction of the president. There are a number of ministers involved within the task force, and I am the chair. And together, we're putting our heads together to bring in the ideas so that we are looking at technology, at growth, creation of employment, and beneficiation. And this is why you have the Minister of Mines, the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Technology, as well as the Aegis Department. We also have ZIDA, as well as ZERA. We've got a whole lot of incredible brains that are coming together to revive ZISCO, and it is going to happen.
Dr. Karunga, you're the man at the helm of ZISCO Steel, and the expectation is that you stand tall, pun intended. What are some of the short-term strategies that you have on your desk?
The short-term strategy that we have is to stabilize the company first, in terms of manpower, in terms of just sprucing it up to make ourselves ready for the investor. But basically, it's trying to work out, preparing for the long term. So we're coming out with the term sheet, we're coming out with the round table for engaging the investors. That's basically in the short term. But all this, remember, is in line, in sync with the national strategic goals. So the board, of course, will give me the framework, and it has given me the framework, and I'm working within that framework to come up with a short-term plan.
You spoke about having a human capital base that will actually ramp up production, but the issue is also around infrastructure. How are you going to match this in order for you to meet some of those goals on your term sheet?
Part of the stabilization program, as said, is the physical infrastructure has to be up to spec. So the energy side, the ZESA side, the water side, and then the actual physical infrastructure in the plant. We're on a program to first ascertain the degeneration, and then from that if we get a view of what's there, it will determine which model we use. I mean, if there's complete degeneration, now it's a question of replacing the whole thing. But if there isn't, like in the steel making plant, it's minimal, then we come up with a different approach to this. So yes, the infrastructure needs fixing, and we're in the process of ascertaining how much damage or how much we need to do to fix it.
They say that the past always has an impact to the future, and Zimbabwe continues to bank on ZISCO Steel for its resurgence. And things seem to be on board, given that there is a political will as well as the right mind frame through, of course, the management and board at ZISCO Steel. This has been Economic Forum, and we were doing it in Kwekwe, right in the heart of Zimbabwe, Midlands Province. My name is Tawanda Gudlanga. On behalf of the crew behind the scenes, until then, it is pleasant viewing.